Happy New Year! Welcome back to the Wayniac Nation Fantasy Football podcast on the YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us for another week. Hope you're ready for we're all ready for a Happy New Year, I think, and for the calendar to flip over to 2021. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but as the great podcaster Abraham Lincoln once said, the show must go on. So we will roll with you. And we will bring you some fantasy picks against the spread, and our weekly starts and sits. Joining me in disgust over his college basketball team's performance right now from Tobacco Road, well, not being able to see his college basketball team's performance right now in Tobacco
Blackout
Road
rules
is the one and only Mike Dunton. Dunton, how are you?
I'm doing well. Let's take a moment to rest in peace, Marianne, everyone's favorite castaway.
I saw that was terrible.
Right.
We couldn't get out of 2020 without one more.
I know, just one more kick in the pants.
Yeah. And joining us from the great Northeast, the one and only Fanduel Fee. Fiamano, how are you?
I'm doing better than I was last week. Not being in any fantasy championship games and be able to enjoy the week of football without having to worry about it. Definitely was good.
Yeah. Well, I did have to worry about it. I lost a miserable championship game with Corey Davis getting a big goose egg and losing by 2 points in the night game. But I'll be back. That was our 7th championship game. You're not going to win all of them.
But,
no. What we do win is we do win you games, and we do win you fantasy football with our picks. And we're going to jump right into Big Larry's locks of the week. We're going to skip Survivor at this point. If your Survivor League still going, you're throwing a dart and hoping that one of the Jets pull off an upset for the 3rd week in a row. But I will tell you, I do like the Washington football team. I saw they were giving 1 point. And I think because of the way this weird week might play out, that we could see a couple dogs. Dutton, you did hit on a couple dogs, even though you said you didn't understand how Dallas was a dog, but you did get that pick right last week. And Fiamano picked the Cincinnati Bengals, who were a 9.5 point underdog, which I questioned why Houston had any right to give points, even a fraction of a point, to any team this year, and they showed that. So I think the Browns getting 10 points against the Steelers. I believe they already said Rudolph is starting and Big Ben won't start. Again, who the heck's going to be on the Browns this week? We don't know. I think the Broncos, I'm not convinced the Raiders can win a ball game anymore. So I think the Broncos getting any sort of points in that game, I've seen it from 2 to 4. I think they're a good upset special. I do think with the Saints playing for the number 1 seed, a 6.5 point spread is not too much for them to cover. Fee, what are you thinking this week?
I like, and I know you might be surprised at this, but I like the Giants getting 2.5 is where I saw it. I think you see it at getting 3. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. I like it.
I think the Giants play hard this week. I think Dallas isn't as good as they've looked recently. I think they've been playing pretty poor competition. And with both of them having something to play for, I think the Giants might even pull it out. I also like Tennessee minus 7.5 against Houston. I'm just going to pick on Houston. And Tennessee is obviously playing for something, and I think they're going to try and feed Derrick Henry to get him over 200 yards to get him to 2,000. And I just think they're just going to trounce Houston, or they should anyway. So they're giving 7.5. And I like Baltimore giving an 11.5 against Cincinnati. Baltimore's got something to play for. Cincinnati doesn't. And I think Baltimore is going to want to come into the playoffs on a good note.
Yeah, for sure. Dutton, who do you like?
I like the Seahawks getting 6 points against the 49ers. I don't know who's playing in that game for the 49ers. I don't think the 49ers know who's playing in that game at this point. And the Seahawks are still outside chance of the number 1 seed, so still something to play for there.
They do. Yeah, they do have a chance.
I also like the red hot New York Jets. They're getting 3 points, underdogs. They're playing the Patriots.
it.
The Patriots are not good.
They're
They're
on
terrible.
phones and such.
Oh my gosh, that's a great gift that's going to be happening now. I mean, anytime customer service makes you mad, you're just going to tweet that, right? Like Bill Belichick slamming a phone down. It's awesome. But yeah, they're not a good team. I mean, they're a couple of plays away from being 2-13 right now. So I think the Jets might, win one more game, and maybe Bill Belichick's playing 4D chess and purposely losing that game because it gets him a better draft pick. Who knows? But yeah, so those are my picks.
Very good. Very good. We're going to flip it up a little bit this week because we are going to give you some weekly starts and sits. We're gonna go kind of quick this week because if your league is still playing in week 17, you really should join another league. There's not a lot of there's too many players. There's too much uncertainty. There's too many players sitting the rest. Your league should end in week 17. But for those of you that do end in week 17, we will continue the starts and sits. And then we'll get to Fanduel fees, stacks of the week. So let's just, last week was another good week. I did get burned by, I stacked the Browns myself in the starts. And then, of course, they all wound up on the COVID list. But that did help Fiamano's pick of Hooper come through at tight end because he was healthy. But we had a bunch of good picks. Our running backs were great again. Montgomery, McKissick, Chubb. We had some good picks at wide receiver. Dutton told you to start Mike Evans. That was one of the best, I think the top 3 of the week at wide receiver. Our sits were pretty solid as well. We got a bit by the injury bug a bit. We told you to sit James Robinson and Julio Jones, and they wound up sitting in real life. So we hope you sat them in your game. But guys like T.Y. Hilton, DeAndre Swift, Chris Carson, they all were busts last week, and hopefully you kept them out of your lineup like we told you to. So jumping into starts of week 17, I'll start it off with quarterback, and I'm going to tell you to start Deshaun Watson. Texans and the Titans don't like each other. I don't think the Texans can win this game, but I think Watson has the heart of a champion, even though most of the rest of the Texans don't, and he is going to go out there and make sure he makes it as hard for the Titans to win as possible. It doesn't mean anyone else on the team is, but he's going to. So I think he's a good start. Fee.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in that same game and go with Ryan Tannehill. I know that they're going to feed Derrick Henry to get him those 200 yards to get to 2,000, but I also think they're going to have to throw the ball a bunch too, because exactly what you just said, Deshaun Watson is going to try and keep the Houston in it. And I think Tannehill should have a very good game because he usually does, especially against Houston's terrible defense.
Yeah. Dutton.
I'm going to start Russell Wilson. We've been down on him a lot lately, but I think this is his bounce back game against 49ers, playing for something for the playoffs.
Sure. I agree. Dutton, we'll stick with you. Let's take it back to running back.
Another guy fighting for the playoffs, and I think could see a huge role this weekend, is Nyheim Hines against the Jaguars with the Colts. So look for him to have maybe a pass catching touchdown or two and a couple, 50 yards.
He's consistent because of those catches.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been getting about 9-10 points a week, so he's worth having in there. Fiamano.
I like Dobbins going against Cincinnati. He's really carved out a big role for Baltimore, and they're going to try to really run it up, I think, just to make sure they win that game. And, pretty much all they do is run the ball anyway between Lamar and their running backs. So I don't know if Mark Ingram is going to sit again, but I think Dobbins should get a lot of carries, a lot of touches.
I think Dobbins has claimed that spot. I know that there's a lot of mouths to feed in that backfield, especially with Lamar Jackson being basically a running back that throws. But I think Dobbins has become the lead back. So I have him as a start this week. I also think Jonathan Taylor against the Jaguars, like we said, they're playing. There's those two guys, Hines and Taylor, have been getting points. Taylor seems to get 2 rushing touchdowns a game since he's been back. So I think you can pencil him in to score. My start at wide receiver is the same at Fiamano. I've already told you why I love Allen Robinson. He's my Tim Brown, if you would. Fee, I'll let you talk a little bit more about him.
Yeah, I think the Bears are really gonna show up in this game. And I know that Trubisky can have down games, but when he has a good game, it's usually halfway decent. And Allen Robinson is just, he's a volume guy. He puts up points every week, and I think he's going to get it for you this week too.
Yeah. Dutton.
I'm going to go with Chris Godwin. I went with Mike Evans last week, Tampa Bay. I'm going to go with Chris Godwin for the simple fact of Brady didn't play the second half last week. And a lot of that is because they finally got Chris Godwin going. He became that possession third down receiver. He also made some big plays. So look for him, try to keep him going as they move into the playoffs. So Chris Godwin.
Especially against the Falcons. You just got to worry if they'll sit in the second half again.
Right. Well, maybe they'll get 40 points again in the first half.
We'll jump over to tight end, and Dunton, we'll just stay with you. Who are you starting?
I'm going to start George Kittle this week only because we haven't had the chance to say his name this year.
That's fair.
I think, why not? Come on, George. Show up the last week of the season.
Fee, you and I, it looks like, have the same start.
I was just realizing that we have the same start for tight end,
running back, and
wide receiver. Yeah, and running back.
Well, if you guys haven't noticed,
you said Taylor too.
The focus here is, if the listeners haven't noticed, is that we're focusing on games where the teams have something to play for. So we're going to take the best players from those teams because that they're going to be on the field for the full 4 quarters, whereas some other guys that you'll see in our sits probably won't. And that's just the way the season's going to end, and that's with the difficulty of week 17. And back in the Tony Dungy, Peyton Manning Colts days, if you had Dallas Clark, Marvin Harrison, and you made it to the Super Bowl, you were in trouble because they started resting their players, and that's just the way some teams work. But yeah, so if, Logan Thomas for me is, I watched him last week, and I can't even remember the guy's name that came in for Haskins, Henke, whatever his name is.
Heineke or whatever. Yeah.
And he put up like 8.5 fantasy points in 6 minutes with, he's just a security blanket, but he could also get open. He's not just an underneath guy. He's athletic and he's a good target, and the Eagles aren't good. But Fee, what do you have to add?
Yeah, not much. Just that the Redskins, when they move the ball, it's usually through either Terry McLaurin or Logan Thomas.
Yeah,
and so he's gonna get a lot of looks. And I think at this point in the season, you're looking for guys that are going to get volume. Whether it's short passes, check downs, whatever it is. I mean, that's what gets you points, especially in PPR, half PPR. So
sure.
Yeah. Logan Thomas.
So we'll go over to sits. And since Fee, you asked me pre-show when we were talking, I picked Andy Dalton to sit this week against the Giants. I think you kind of mentioned it. We both like the Giants in this game against the spread. Giants are home, and there's plenty to play for. And they're not gonna let the Cowboys just walk. Well, it may happen, but I don't think this defense has been good, and they've allowed the 5th least points to fantasy quarterbacks this year. They've allowed under 17 points per game in fantasy. And Dalton, sure, he was great last week against the Eagles, and he's had a couple good games. And they have great receivers, but the Giants defense is legit, and they've been exposed a couple times, but I still think that they could shut down Andy Dalton. And that's why I picked him. I see you both have the same quarterback to sit, and in our notes it says, Dutton, you go first. So Dutton, why are you picking Derek Carr this week?
I'm sitting Derek Carr. I think the fire has gone out on the Gruden-Carr relationship.
Yeah,
I agree. It was really passionate, right? It was really hot and heavy at the beginning of this year. Oh, Derek Carr has been changed. He doesn't turn the ball over. He still holds on to the ball forever. We all know that. But these last couple of weeks, the Raiders have not looked good. I don't want to say John Gruden's on the hot seat, but I'd put him on the hot seat. So I just don't know if the Raiders show up to this game. I don't think they have anything to play for. I think they're completely beat down. I think they had a chance to make the playoffs this year and they blew it and they know it. And I think Derek Carr is not going to be mentally in this game.
So that was the way they were coached.
Right.
You know, they blew it that Josh Jacobs went down and played for a field goal.
Right,
So
exactly.
It's not on the
Yeah.
players. And I wouldn't blame
Right.
them for not, you know, I could totally see them not showing up. Fee, what did you
Right.
have to add?
Yeah, it pretty much Dutton said it. I think where I was looking at is that the Raiders are just going to not mentally be in this game just because of what happened last week. And I think, you know, the Broncos it's a division game that the Broncos don't want to lose to the Raiders, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, right, it is a division game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I just think that the Broncos are going to show up and the Raiders aren't. And, you know, I mean, it's just kind of a recipe for disaster for Carr.
I mean, the Raiders got beat last week. Basically, the NFL now has a new position, right? The closer. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the first NFL's closer.
Yeah.
Like,
Really?
He comes in.
Don't be surprised if Tua plays for the first half, and if he's not getting anything done,
Right.
Fitzpatrick is going to come in for
I'm
the start
telling
of
you,
the second half,
he's
and he's going to
closer.
rally that team.
Comes in and
And
wins
you know
games.
what? I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I like the fact that Flores is doing that. And, you know, okay, Tua is my guy, but if he doesn't get it done, I got a guy that can come in and will get it done.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't mind it. I don't, because you go with Tua first, you see what he can do. Maybe he moves the offense. Maybe he gets it done.
Right.
So then you don't have to worry about it. But I like the fact that he's got Fitzpatrick back there and that he's, you know, willing to make that change, you know, and watch, he'll make it earlier than he did last week.
Yeah, it'll be like a playoff baseball game where we're bringing in the relief pitcher in the 8th inning instead of the 9th inning.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it might be like the 4th or 5th inning.
We need him to get 5 outs.
Right. All right. Rolling on the running back sits. Dutton, who you sitting?
I'm sitting Myles Gaskin. That Buffalo team showed America something over the last. I mean, think about it. They've had 3 primetime games in the last 3 weeks, and they've shown up for every one of them.
Yeah, they're good.
And I think that defense shows up again this weekend. I think they want to make sure that the Steelers have to come, assuming the playoff picture plays the way it's supposed to, that the Steelers have to come to Buffalo for that second round game. I think they want that second game. It'd be pretty awesome. So that's why I'm sitting as Myles Gaskin playing against a tough Bills defense.
Fee, how about you?
I am sitting my Rams running backs against the Cardinals because I don't know who the Rams running back is going to be because Akers is hurt, Henderson is hurt. There's just lots of questionable things going on there. I think Malcolm Brown could be a solid play. But I just don't, and Goff is out.
Yeah.
You know, with the thumb. So
Blake Bortles.
Yeah. So yeah, I would sit your Rams running backs. If you got anything going on in season long, I would sit your Rams running backs. But we'll see when we get to Fanduel. I kind of like Malcolm Brown where his salary's at. So we can talk about that later.
All right. I'm going to tell you to sit Mike Davis or whoever the Panthers put in the backfield. I don't think Mike Davis is finishing this game. I think the Saints are going to come out and put a beat down. Their defense is already great against running backs as it is, and I just think that they want this number 1 seed. Nobody wants to go to Lambeau in January. So that's my pick. I'll stick with it, and I'll go against that Cardinals defense. And as you just mentioned, Goff being out, I would tell you to sit Kupp and Woods, but Kupp is on the COVID list as well. So I'm going to tell you to sit Robert Woods this week. Fee.
So I have here in my notes to sit Diggs, especially after what he did last week. But after Dutton talked about the Bills wanting to win that game against the Dolphins, the Dolphins have a good defense.
They have.
So I think that's kind of why I put Diggs. But after hearing what Dutton said, I'm not sure that I do want to sit him, and I don't really have a backup, so I'm questionable for this. I put Diggs. I'm not so sure about it. I don't know.
Nice. Dutton.
So I am laughing because you two are all in on Allen Robinson as
Yeah,
a start, and I'm sitting Allen Robinson for the reason of Bears Packers is one of those rivalries in football. The Packers do not want to lose to the Bears
Oh, for
and
sure.
then lose the number one seed, right? The Packers secondary is much improved. Yes, they've been rotating through guys like crazy because of injuries, but they're still decent. And I just don't trust Mitch Trubisky. I know that they put up, I think I heard the other day, this is the first time since like 1964 that the Bears have scored 40 points 4 weeks in a row. But
Nice.
I just don't trust it to be 5 weeks in a row. So
Well, we'll see. We will see.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, two of us are going to be wrong, or one of us is going to be right.
That's right. Tight end sit. I'm going to go ahead and say it just because I'm going to tell you to sit Travis Kelce. It's the only time that we can honestly say that because he would probably wind up sitting after they announce Mahomes isn't starting today. But even if he does start, he is not going the whole game. Fee, who are you sitting?
I am sitting Hayden Hurst because I hate the Falcons offense without Julio.
Without Julio.
And Hurst screwed me a couple weeks ago. So I'm sitting him.
Nice. And Dutton.
I'm sitting Eric Ebron. Roethlisberger's already sitting. Very similar to Travis Kelce. I don't see Ebron. If he takes the field, he's not staying on the field very long. They need him the following week. So sit Eric Ebron.
Very good. I would also sit in a serious sense, since I said Kelce. You might be trending towards Higbee this week because of the Rams injuries and such, but I don't think he's a good start. And that's our starts and sits for the final week of the season. We will head right now into the most important part and the part of the season that's actually just getting started because I love playoff FanDuel. We'll go to FanDuel Fee's action stacks of the week. Fee, what are we doing this week?
All right. So it's an interesting week this week with so many guys not playing and there being lots of backups. I didn't really get a whole lot of time to do a whole lot of research. So when I talk about some of these guys, there's going to be players that I don't talk about that might end up being good plays, especially for very cheap salaries because they're filling in for guys on teams that are sitting players. So I don't have a lot of those guys in particular because I wasn't able to do the research that you need to do to be able to find those guys. But off the bat, I'm going to talk about guys pretty much in games that mean something, basically the same thing that we talked about for start and sit. So starting at quarterback, I really love Lamar playing Cincinnati. He cost $9,000, but I think it's going to be very worth it. If you wanted to go down slightly, Brady playing Atlanta. I've been picking on Atlanta all year long. Tampa's offense kind of broke out last week. They're going to need to play well again. And who knows what's going on with their running back situation. So I think I like Brady against Atlanta for 8,400. Ryan Tannehill, I spoke about earlier, playing Houston's D. I know that they're going to be feeding Derrick Henry, but I do like him to put up some points this week, although he's 8,200. So you might want to spend up for Brady or even Lamar at that point. But I also like Matt Ryan in the other side of that game against Tampa, whether it's garbage time or whatever, he's going to just be throwing the ball all the time. And he showed it the last 2 or even 3 weeks. He's put over 300 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns in every single game over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And he's at 7,500 if you wanted to save a little bit of money. Over in running back, I obviously love Derrick Henry up at 10,200. But most likely worth it again against Houston's defense. I like Jonathan Taylor. We spoke about him earlier against Jacksonville. He's 8,400. Dobbins the same. He's down at 6,400. It could be a very unconventional stack with Lamar if you wanted to go quarterback, running back. And 6,400 isn't too terrible a salary. And then a couple of guys that might be good value plays this week. Malcolm Brown, I don't know. Again, I said it. I don't know what's going on with the Rams running back situation, but if both Akers and Henderson are both out, Malcolm Brown could get a lot of run. He's down at 5,600. And for the Jets, I think you guys said that Gore was out, and Pirine has COVID, and so, or he's on the COVID list. And so I like Ty Johnson. He's down at 5,000. Could be an interesting play. He's been a solid guy for them, and we all like the Jets this week. So Ty Johnson could be a real good value play for you this week. Moving on to the receivers, I love Devontae Adams against Chicago. I know they have a good defense, but like you said, Green Bay is going to want to win that game, and it's a division game, and they're going to want to push Adams. You're just going to feed him, basically like they've been doing all season. He's at 9,300. I like Allen Robinson. I know Dutton said he didn't. He's at 7,700. T.Y. Hilton against the Jags is 6,300. I know we don't like Dallas, but I do like CeeDee Lamb going against the Giants at 6,100 because Bradbury and who's the other guy that they just paid? I forget his name. The ex-Titan guy. Anyway, their two outside cornerbacks are very good. Probably going to bottle up Amari Cooper and Gallup. But if they're going to do anything, I think it's CeeDee Lamb in the slot. And I like Curtis Samuel playing New Orleans at 6,100. Tight ends, I like Andrews. Same, Baltimore situation. He's at 7,200. I like Gronk playing Atlanta. You can stack him with Brady. He's at 6,100. And my last guy is Austin Hooper playing Pittsburgh. He's down at 5,200 if you want to save a little bit of money.
Nice. Well, thank you, Fanduel Fee. Definitely going to be playing some of those plays in my I can't wait for this week because there should be some nice affordable value plays, like you said, with the backups that are going to be there announced by the time Sunday rolls around.
Yeah, keep an eye on those roster moves.
Oh yeah, they're going to be fast and furious starting tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we made it through our first regular season on the podcast. We thank you for listening. We're not over. We're not done. We're just getting started. We're going to head to the off season. We're going to head to the playoffs. We're going to keep bringing you fantasy information and locks of the week all year round until the next fantasy football season. Hopefully you won a little bit. Hopefully you won your survivor. Hopefully you're up in the stacks department when you're FanDuel in your FanDuel fund. But have fun tomorrow night or tonight by the time you're listening to this. Popping Bortles for the New Year's Eve festivities wherever you are. Be happy, be healthy, be safe, and let's go 2021.
Let's go.
Have a good one, everybody.
Enjoy.